A small portion of this video is sponsored by Nordvpn. I've been excited to test out Samsung's S10e on Tech Rewind for quite a while now, mainly because I remember it being such a great phone for the money when it was first released back in, I think it was March of 2019. It was an extremely well-rounded phone and it was loved by a lot of people. The question is, has that changed at all? Is it still a very well-rounded phone, or has it been a little deformed over the past couple of years? Let's find out. It's time for Tech Rewind. The E in S10e stands for essential, meaning Samsung was trying to build a phone that gave us all of the essentials for a more economical price, and for the most part, I think they succeeded. In fact, this phone is so well-rounded in almost every area that it almost comes across as boring. For instance, let's start with the display. The S10e has a 5.8-inch 1080p AMOLED display. I will admit, the panel is nice and vivid and it's got great contrast because of its AMOLED nature. It's not as sharp as the 1440p panels on the more expensive S10 models though, and it doesn't have a high refresh rate display. Samsung is giving us all of the essentials, but no extras. It also has the largest corner hole punch I've ever seen, but you can hide it with some clever wallpapers if you want. It's the same exact story with the Fingerprint Reader. On the other S10 models, you get an under-display fingerprint reader, but here on the S10e, it's a little awkwardly placed onto the power button high up onto the frame. It's accurate enough most of the time, but it could be a little bit difficult for lefties to use. While some people no longer consider it an essential thing to have, the S10e also has a 3.5mm headphone jack for wired listening, and despite the extra hole in the frame, it does not impact water resistance at all. The S10e is IP68 certified for water and dust resistance, which is always nice for peace of mind. The S10e is a good looking phone too. Now, it might not look quite as fancy as some brand new phones, but it still feels lightweight in the hand, and I actually think the 5.8-inch display might be my favorite display size. It's very comfortable to use, and it's still plenty big for watching the occasional YouTube video or TV show on my phone. Now, on the off chance that you did want to load up a bunch of movies onto your phone to watch at a later date, you can do that with another thing that some of you might consider essential, a micro SD card slot. Now, I've personally never used it, but I know a lot of you do, and it's something that seems to be going away on a lot of modern flagships. This next thing might not be an essential, but it sure is nice to have. The S10e also has a set of stereo speakers in case you didn't want to use wired or wireless headphones. They sound pretty good actually, especially for a value-oriented phone. There's no balancing issues between the top and bottom firing speaker, and they support Dolby Atmos. All of that is great, but if the phone doesn't have a good software experience or performance, then it really isn't giving us all of the essentials. Thankfully, it does. Samsung included the same Snapdragon 855 or Exynos 9820 CPU as is in the more expensive brothers in the S10 lineup. It can have a little less RAM like my model does at 6 gigs, but you can configure it up to 8 if you want. In all the time that I've spent with the phone, it seems to perform just as well as it did when it was first released. It's been fully updated to Android 11, and for bonus points, it's getting 3 years of software updates, so it should be getting Android 12 in the coming months. The only thing I don't love is the fact that it doesn't have a high refresh rate display, so it does feel a little less snappy than some modern flagships, but hey, for the price, I can't complain at all. It'll chug through pretty much anything you can throw at it, gaming included. I played a full round of PUBG Mobile on this thing, and the frame rate did not dip once under 60 FPS, although the phone did get a little hot in the hand. I'm going to talk about how the battery is holding up in 2021 as well as the camera performance, but first, I need to pay some bills and take a quick second to thank the sponsor of this video, NordVPN. Protecting yourself online should be a top priority for you, and using NordVPN is a super simple way to do it. It works by creating an encrypted and secure tunnel between your computer and the host that you're accessing, and you can get it by going to nordvpn.com/Spurrell or by clicking in the link in the video description. I've been using Nord for quite a long time now on my phones and both my PC and Mac, and the most important use that I have for it is to protect me from getting my personal or my banking information stolen, but it can do other stuff too. For example, you can also use it to unblock content that's locked behind a certain region-specific wall. We don't get some streaming services like Hulu over here in Canada, but if I just switch to a US server, Hulu thinks I live in the US and I can bypass that region restriction with just the snap of a finger. There's almost no difference in speed either. You'd have a real hard time telling the difference between when your VPN was on versus when it was off. Look, I think NordVPN is one of the best VPNs out there, but you don't have to take my word for it. Just go ahead and Google Nordvpn reviews. It's got literally top ratings everywhere, and you should definitely get it. Go to nordvpn.com/Spurrell or use the coupon code Spurrell to get a 2-year plan plus a bonus gift with a huge discount. Thanks to Nordvpn for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the S10e. All right, let's talk about something that I would consider as one of the most important essentials: battery life. The S10e comes with a somewhat medium-sized 3100 mAh battery, and for the size of the phone, that seems about right. The S10e is pretty small by today's standards, so I'm not sure they'd be able to stick a much bigger battery inside of it. It's got about the same battery capacity as the similarly sized Pixel 4a, which has excellent battery life. I'm getting about 5 to 5.5 hours of screen on time with mixed usage before I have to juice up again, which is more than enough to get me through a full day with just a little bit of extra battery life left over. Again, it's got what you need, but not much extra. To charge up the S10e, you can fast charge it at up to 15 watts via the USB-C port, but it also has 15-watt wireless charging and 4.5-watt reverse wireless charging if you want to charge another phone or a pair of earbuds. Then there's the cameras. The S10e has 2 cameras on the rear, a 12-megapixel wide-angle camera and a 16-megapixel ultra-wide. Photos coming from those cameras are pretty good overall. If you feed them plenty of light, they'll perform decently well. The only issue I have with it is that it tends to oversaturate green really heavily. I get that it can look great if the grass is nice and lush, but this just looks like they took the saturation slider and cranked it all the way to 11. If there's little to no greens in the shot though, most photos come out looking pretty good until you get into some low light stuff where it starts to fall apart. The 10 megapixel front facing camera is decent though, and I find it handles the portrait mode background blur very well. There's one more thing that we need to talk about with regards to the S10e, and it's an important one. Value. You can pick up one of these for about $250 to $300 on the used market right now, and for what this phone offers, that's a great deal. At the beginning of this video, I said that this phone is so well-rounded that it kind of comes across as boring, and the reason I said that is because there's almost nothing that I can complain about. It does absolutely everything it needs to. Samsung named the S10e perfectly. The E stands for more than just essential. It's economical, excellent, and easy to recommend. At the end of every Tech Rewind episode, I rank each phone from A+ at the top and F all the way at the bottom, and the Samsung Galaxy S10e, with its extremely well-rounded set of features, gets a solid A from me. If you like this video and you want to compare it with another excellent used phone, check out this Tech Rewind episode where I review the OnePlus 6T. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.